This week on the Retirement Quick Tips podcast, I'm sharing with you my thoughts and ideas about how to get over your guilt about spending money in retirement. Today, let's talk about how getting over your guilt often requires an attitude adjustment. When I was a sassy middle schooler, my mom would often tell me that I needed an attitude adjustment. What I mean is that many of you love watching your net worth grow. And that's an important thing. I'm not saying that's bad. You should want to be growing your net worth, especially while you're working. It's obviously very important. We need our net worth to grow over time so that when you get to the finish line of your working years and now you need to start taking some money out of your nest egg, you've grown it to the point where that can sustain you for the next 25, 30 years of retirement. So yeah, it's important. You should want to watch your net worth grow. But when you start taking withdrawals, you're not going to see that continued growth in net worth, at least to the extent that you were used to. So the reality for many Americans is that your net worth trajectory, it continues to climb throughout life. You know, you're totally broke in your 20s and then you start working and you start making more money. And most people, they reach those peak earning years right before retirement, and they often have a house and some assets, and hopefully they've got rid of most of their debt outside of their mortgage by that point. So when you tally up all of somebody's assets and what they own and subtract out their debt, which is their liabilities, and the difference between those is somebody's net worth. So your net worth continues to climb generally over life, but it does level off, and then it actually starts to decline somewhat. So spending down your assets, many people have health problems. By the time you get to your mid 70s, it peaks from I think 65 to 74 is that age range where your net worth peaks, and it sort of levels off, and then it declines modestly, not a lot, but it declines a little bit past the age of 75. That comes down a lot to, I think, health problems. You know, you might have some expensive medical bills. Maybe you need some assisted living. Maybe you've spent a lot in your early years of retirement. Frankly, most Americans, they don't have a meaningful enough nest egg to withdraw from and support their lifestyle. So if you have a 401k that's worth like $200,000, that's not going to last in retirement. So what often happens is that you have an expense come up here or there, you take money out of your 401k, and you see that kind of whittle down over time, over, the course of maybe 20 years. A lot of people are in that boat. They rely primarily on Social Security or some type of pension. They don't have a $1 million IRA or something to draw from. They might have, 150 or 200,000 instead. And so that's why you generally see wealth that will peak and then start to decline during about the last decade of life. The numbers back this up. So research from NerdWallet shows that the median net worth peaks in that 65 to 74 group at $410,000. That's everything: your house, equity in your house, your investment accounts, your bank account, all of your assets. 410,000 is, again, the median. By age 75, that median net worth has actually declined from 410,000 to 334,000. So knowing that your net worth doesn't need to grow like it did during your working years and saving years is helpful to overcoming your guilt. If you want to double your net worth over the next 10 years while you're retired, certainly that's possible. And with the market the way it's been for the last few years, many retirees have done that. But is that what you really want? Is that the most important thing? I think personally, it's better to focus on stable, gradually increasing. We don't want our net worth to decline because we need to keep pace with inflation, but we don't need it to grow in a huge way either. So we want to focus instead on lifestyle. Focus on meeting your lifestyle goals, not continuing to grow and get to a new high watermark with your net worth. Because if you're doing it right, you're actually not going to see a lot of growth in your net worth, certainly not in the way you did in your working years. Because in your working years, you're adding money. Hopefully you were saving a lot, adding a lot of money to your investments every year, and then that was growing. You weren't taking anything out in terms of withdrawals. But again, in retirement, that's completely different. And just to put some numbers on this, a portfolio that is balanced and it's not like 90 or 100% in stocks. It's, let's say a 60-40, 60% stocks, 40% bonds. Typically, the range of returns on average for most people with that type of allocation, you could expect 5, 6, 7, maybe 8% if you were being really optimistic. But I'd say 5 to 7% returns on that portfolio mix is reasonable. But then if you're withdrawing somewhere in the range of 3 to 5% of your portfolio in a given year, and it's earning an average return like in that 5 to 7% range, you're just not going to see that much growth because net of what you took out for withdrawals, it might only grow by a couple percentage. And so we don't want to spend our assets down to zero, but a low growth portfolio in retirement net of your withdrawals is perfectly fine. In fact, some years when we have a down market like we had in 2022 or we've seen so far this year, I see clients who are retired and so far this year, they might have returns of a couple percent, 2-3% of their portfolio. But if they're taking withdrawals, they're not more than maybe breaking even right now when you're looking at the number at the beginning value versus the current value of their portfolio net of withdrawals. We still want growth to be there, but it doesn't need to be as robust as it was in your working years to continue to support your lifestyle in retirement. All right, the goal is to maintain a lifestyle that brings you satisfaction in retirement and not at the expense of that little pleasure you get of watching your net worth grow. Because I know you get some satisfaction of that too, but it's no fun to sit in a chair looking at your computer, tallying up your numbers all the time and not enjoying anything else because you refuse to spend money. You know who you are. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Ashley Michike, and this is the Retirement Quick Tips Podcast.